Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is the peace chant for this Katha Upanishad, and we will be using this peace chant. The translation is, may He protect us both, the teacher and the taught. By revealing knowledge, may He protect us both by vouchsafing the results of knowledge. May we attain bigger together. Let what we study be invigorating. May we not quarrel, or may we not quarrel with each other. There are a couple of things we will look at in this peace chant. First thing is, in the study of scriptures, there is something called a dialogue. The teacher says something and the student has to understand, and if he or she has any difficulty, has to. So, in the Bhagavad Gita also we find that Sri Krishna says, Vada Pravada. It is Vada. Vada is a kind of a dialogue. Both the teacher as well as the student, they want to arrive at a particular conclusion. They are both working together. When one, either student or the teacher, keeps on giving false generalization, making use of false generalizations or improper logic, then it's called something called vitanda. Then it's a kind of a one way, you can say, just the teacher speaking or the student speaking, and there is no learning process involved. And then the other is both keep on shouting at each other. Vitanda. Oh, and that's the reason why they say that in India there are no commandments. Thou shalt do this and thou shalt not do this. First thing they would have asked, first, what is your authority? And why should we listen to your commandments? So in India there are no commandments. We have 10 or 12, 13, 14, whatever. We don't have that. We want to arrive at truth through a process of dialogue. Because until the intellectual, you can say, doubts are not eradicated, we will not be able to orient ourselves to that truth. Yeah. We need to keep that always in mind. This is truth, or this is moksha or liberation. Our goal is to reach there, not to dispute the authenticity of what you said, or the grammatical twaddle, or there's some error in the book. No, we are supposed to reach to liberation. Let us work together. That's why Saha, both of us, let us work together. And it's very important because the teacher is not putting himself on a kind of a pedestal. I am the teacher and you are the student, you've got to listen to me, whatever. No. So, it was always disputation, but disputation with the idea of clarification. That's the reason why I say, May He, that is, may the Supreme Soul protect us both, the teacher and the thought, by revealing knowledge. This is important because words are the primary instrument of knowledge. One of the 6 tests for any scriptural passage. There are direct perception and inference, and the third one is scriptural authority, Shabda. So this is the praman. How do you know this is true? Well, the scriptures are the authority. But there are plenty of scriptures. Yes, for you now this is it. So, that's why even in the Bhagavad Gita, after Arjuna keeps on asking questions, he's saying, wait, let the scripture be your guide on what you have to do or you don't have to do. So clearly we need some guidance, some initial guidance, and that initial guidance is a scripture. So here we are. So this first reveals knowledge. It's called the knowledge that is Paroksha Jnana. It's knowledge because words have the power to unveil some of this ignorance that's hiding the reality. The knowledge that this Upanishad will give us is, they say, non-created or non-create. There is no person. It's called a Paurushaya, number one. That is, there is no human author. These truths have been perceived supersensuously by the rishis, and what they saw, they kind of brought it down in the form of a language. And so we need to have faith here that this knowledge that we are discussing about has been experienced before, and that experience, which is supersensuous, is on the sensory level brought to us through words. The experience itself has been encapsulated. There is something called an experience. All religions have started with an experience. I have seen God. Vedahametam Purusham. Everyone has got an experience. All founders of all religions start with an experience. And that experience has to be expressed according to the particular time, the culture, the language. Simple as that. So apparently that truth, supersensuous truth, becomes confined within a particular set of people, but with a particular language, with a particular culture, and saying, oh, this is what it is. So these two, experience and expression, they go together. As we transcend the ordinary cultural limitations of the expression, we find that experience is more or less the same in all religions, in all philosophies. Shri Ramakrishna says all jackals howl alike howl alike. So all souls who realize the truth, they speak actually in the same language. The mystics speak in the same language. So the expression will differ. The fight at times is due to a kind of a language or a grammar or something like that, some expression. So that's the reason why I say maybe not quarrel, maybe let us not fight with each other. and let what we study be invigorating. So much for the peace chant, because since this is the first class, it was necessary to clear certain things about this peace chant. We will take this peace chant every time we study this Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. Now, Swami Vivekananda, he asked his disciple, have you read the Katha Upanishad? Saying, yeah, I've read it. I think, I want you to memorize it. And Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, and we have this idea that you can say, especially the Ramakrishna Mission and the Vedanta Society, we have the Katha Upanishad as a principal Upanishad to be studied. That apart, their tradition says that the name of this rishi was Kataka. And the whole Upanishad is in a kind of a story form. The first 2 chapters are in a kind of a story form, where a young boy called Nachiketa has gone to the realm of death, and death gives him 3 boons. He grants him the 2. The final one was, there is this thing called death. Some people say it is real. Some people say it is unreal. Since you are death, I want you to tell me. And this is the message. And very strangely, the god of death tries to dissuade him, tries to tempt him, and then tries to, say, yes, I can give you many other things than this. And you are a mere boy. What will you do with this knowledge? Forget it. But he persisted. The boy persisted. And the teacher was extremely delighted, because he wanted to test the fitness of the person who is going to read or understand the scriptures. There is something called, in the Vedanta text, it's called Anubandha Chatushta. That is, this Upanishad is meant for whom? Is there kind of a competent person to study this? So it's called Adhikari. Then secondly, what is the subject matter? The subject matter is the knowledge of Brahman. That will lead you to liberation. And the third is there a connection between the competent student and the subject matter? And the fourth is there a need for this? Why should we even bother about religion or God or truth or being? Is there a need for this? We think that there is no need. It's called prayojana. But then we get a few kicks. From, life teaches us some harsh lessons. And then we say, what is this life? And we ask questions. So there is always a kind of a need. If there is no need, there will be no need to study these books, or no need to go to the teacher. Why should I bother? Because I don't need, I'm very happy. Yeah, you go, you'll be happy for a while now. And let's see how long you'll be happy. And don't come back crying to me. You don't need me now, but you'll need me tomorrow. So this is the saving knowledge, the knowledge of Brahman. And why is it connected to you? It is because it's your own nature. You are that Brahman, and you ought to know about yourself. So you are already a competent You can be a student for this. There's a long list of conditions that are necessary for this. But Swami Vivekananda just dismissed it. Everyone should hear the glory of this Atman, their own self. The whole universe appears like a drop before this mighty soul of yours. And why are we ignorant of this? What has made us ignorant of this? Our real nature. So there is a real need for it. It's your nature. You are competent to listen, study, and realize that which is you. That's the reason why Shankaracharya in his explanations says, yeah, fine. It is, these things are a given that everyone needs to study this. The introduction is salutations to Bhagavan Yama, that is Death, son of the sun and the imparter of the knowledge of Brahman, and salutations to Nachiketa. So it's a kind of a long tradition of teachers. Every teaching has to come through a line of accredited teachers. You need to have a teacher. You may have many other things, but where the knowledge of Brahman is concerned, you need to have a teacher. Yes. Even I used to believe that, it's not necessary. No, it is necessary. I tell you. Sri Ramakrishna, to his intense, you can say, longing for the vision of God, he could break through many obstacles. Yes, and he did it. That's a mighty effort which we will not be able to put in. We are still too body oriented. Our life is still dependent on food. We won't have that kind of strength. So we need to work ourselves slowly up. And secondly, even at that extreme point of, when you are just about to take that leap into, from this side to that side, you just might get diverted and end up in something called Prakriti, that is nature, the unmanifest nature. It appears so blissful. Yes, you might go in and you might not even realize that you've got inside. It's like, it's a state of deep sleep. There's no kind of name and form there. So you think it's Brahman. That's the Brahman. There's bliss. But that's the bliss of nature. But then it's blinding. And you get trapped in that. And you might come in the next cycle as some kind of mighty soul. This has been discussed in the Great Master by Swami Satyamayananda. So it's called Prakriti Laya Purusha. They get merged. So you might be under the impression that you've achieved the knowledge of Brahman. No, you might be sidetracked. Yes, so you need a teacher. In the higher realms of knowledge, you need. We'll start with the introduction. The word Upanishad, one of the meanings is, it means the knowledge of Brahman. The word Upanishad itself is knowledge of Brahman. It's like Upa, Ni, Sat and Kvip Dhatu. That is, the root of this word is something which will loosen that mesh you are in, or something that will destroy your ignorance. So when we approach this and stay near this knowledge, that knowledge will loosen our bonds or destroy our ignorance. The other knowledge is you go close to the teacher and sit down. There are 2 or 3 meanings given to this, layered meanings in Upanishad. It is not a book. The book is a secondary implication. That is, Upanishad means a book. It's not a book. The example given, like, clarified butter is life. Yes, clarified butter or ghee is not life. The person who drinks clarified butter, he becomes, as you say, long-lived. There are the old belief, clarified butter. And these Samavejis, those who used to chant the Vedas, they should drink a lot, enough of clarified butter. Why? Because you get a nice voice, and when you sing those Vedic chants, the gods also are pleased. And they liked a chanter who had a nice voice, not sort of squeaky voice. So they said, you drink a little and it will increase your lifespan also. So they say, the clarified butter is not long life, that it has to be. So the book is not the Upanishad. Once you keep on reading this, thinking about it, meditating upon it, then it becomes the primary meaning of the word Upanishad is the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of reality, the knowledge of being. And as I said, it is our own birthright. We don't need, and this is one of the great works of Swami Vivekananda. He opened this whole ancient tradition. He said, it is my job to bring the Vedanta from the forests and the mountains, caves and monasteries down to this world. And that's going to transform this universe, this society. Because that knowledge which was in the hands of a few is going to become dynamic. You know, when you are the imperishable soul, the fear of death goes away. A fear of hatred, fear of the jealousy, all the petty things that human mind is here to, goes out. Why should we? You will have more energy, you can interact with people. Yes, that also is a soul, that also is, I am a soul. So on the level, we can build a kind of a new society based on this doctrine of this earth. And this is what Swami Vivekananda wanted. It's not just some few monks or few pandits will go and sit down and meditate and try to realize this. No. Because this Upanishads were preached by the kings, the royal caste. And they were more liberal. And it was spread, this Upanishad literature was spread more because they tried to bring it down to the masses. So this Upanishad, it's not something that needs, great capacity. You do it incrementally, gradually. Keep on thinking about it, hearing about it, meditating about it, and then one day the light will shine. The first verse, we'll take this first verse up. I'll chant it in the traditional way, and we will see the meaning of it. Om Ushan Havai Vajashravasah Sarvaveda Sandado Tasya Nachiketa Nama Patra Asa. Once upon a time, the son of Vajasravasa, being desirous of fruits, gave away everything he had. As the story goes, a son named Nachiketa. So he had a son. We have, in the old days, a particular type of sacrifice which was called Vishwajit. And in the Vishwajit sacrifice, whatever one had, whatever one possessed, had to be given in charity to anyone who could, starting with the priest and then. So, here we have a person who wanted the fame of performing the sacrifice and trying to discard certain unwanted things. Like in India, when we have some disaster relief and we have a lot of people coming and giving a lot of clothes. And then we say, all these are old and worn out clothes and all, then we have got to make a stipulation. Please give clothes which are unused. They just want to empty their homes of all, and their closets of all clothes, old clothes, and they throw it out. So something like this. This person, he is performing this Vishwajit sacrifice, and one has to give everything away. Everything. And he had a son, whose name Nachiketa. So we have, it's a proper name, there's the same Vajasravasa, but the name is Gautama. Because we have seen that later on the word Gautama is used. Yes.
Can I say, I think if people read desirous of fruit, they're going to think that he wanted bananas or something. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah. the desirous of the results of this sacrifice. Now, in the old days, we had something called the yajna. Even today's fire sacrifices are a kind of a modifications of this. The fruits, in the sense of, every action has the opposite and equal reaction. The reaction, when a person does any action, a person is sure that the results will come. Two, so the fruition might take 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, but it's sure that it is going to come. Now, Rajaprana says, it's better desires of fruits. What is the fruit? That is, what is the result? Fame first, and then secondly, heaven. There is in us a slight, you can say, knowledge that the sacrifices we do here, in order to enjoy or to experience the results of that sacrifice, you cannot experience it with this body. You need a kind of a divine body or a God body. And you cannot have a God body here. And this is the human plane, and you need a human body. You have a God body, you have a kind of a celestial realm. This person, these yagnikas, those who do these sacrifices, it was mentioned, you do this sacrifice, you will get this. Swarga kamo agnishtoma juhuyat. That is, if you desire heaven, you do this sacrifice. It was a kind of injunction in the scriptures. So people, yes, we will do this sacrifice here, but the result of the sacrifices can be experienced in a different realm. So there was a kind of knowledge already that yes, I'm going to get the result of this sacrifice there. And in this realm, I'll get a fame. Oh, this guy has performed this sacrifice. So he must be really a holy man, they say. The more marks you put on you, they say, oh, this person is really holy.
What is understood by heaven, immortality, or the realm of the gods, or what is, what was he trying to achieve by attaining heaven?
Now, I won't answer this question now, because as we proceed, we will come across this teaching. But for the time being, there are various levels of celestial spheres. Okay. Yes, we have something like Kinnara Lok, Yaksha Lok, Gandharva Lok, Deva Lok, and various loks. So all these spheres are kind of a temporary existence there. You go up there and you come down. And this is a settled doctrine. Even in the Bhagavad Gita is saying that this person, what happens to the person, the yogi, who on the path to yoga, he slips or misses the path or doesn't reach the goal. So what happens to that person? So Sri Krishna says, yes, he enjoys or experiences the results of all the good deeds that the person has done, experiences there, and then comes down and is born in the family of virtuous people or the saintly people. Okay, so those realms, we'll come down to this because we must not be attracted to the temporal, you can say, results of what the god of death will give you. In fact, Nachiketa does ask about this heaven, but it's a temporary thing. The goal is, as I said, it's liberation. So it's a temporary thing. This world is temporary, that world is temporary, all is well. In this very, what is here is there, and what is there is here. He who sees the differentiation goes from death to death. So, we have those celestial realms, we need a kind of a celestial body. And so, this is the results that this person is desirous of experiencing.
Swamiji, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Are these sacrifices coming from the Karma Kanda portion of the aspect of the Vedas? Would that be kind of...
Yes, it starts with the Karma Kanda. That is the first initial sections of the Vedas. What happens is, we see this world outside, we observe this world outside, and we wonder, we question, and we bring all these conceptions in a kind of a sacrifice. In the old Vedic days, this sacrifice, fire sacrifice, represented the universe, the unseen gods, and we are trying to reach to God. So this sacrifice was a microcosm of the macrocosm, of course. As these sacrifices were performed, certain sections of the people, they internalized these conceptions, and that became the Upanishad, the Jnana Kanda. Okay, so these are internalizations of these old Vedic sacrifices, and Vedic sacrifices had the whole cosmos for its, you can say, it's a symbol of the whole cosmos. Like what we do as a kind of a worship, the five, you can say, the flower, the water, and the lamps, and the you can say whisk, they all represent the five elements. So it is a kind of a cosmic worship that we are performing here to that all-pervading deity for the time being has taken this form. So worship is always cosmic, worship is always divine. So similarly, these Vedic yajnas, people never knew anything better than, okay, fine, this is what it is. This is the universe. So they had the god of fire, and the god of rain, and this, and sun, and all these various gods, and they sacrificed them. Okay. So yes, what he said, it is the Karma Kanda. That's the first part of the Vedas. The second part is, that's why it's called the Jnana Kanda or the Upanishads. In some of the older Upanishads, we find that horse sacrifice, is now internalized. That person has to meditate, and a person who meditates on that horse sacrifice gets the result equally good of one who actually performs a horse sacrifice. You get a horse sacrifice, quite a pretty expensive, proposition. You get a horse and so there's an easy way here to imagine the universe with the parts of the horse, and the back is the heaven, the belly is the earth, and all these things. So it's always the, you can say, visible and invisible universe that is being encapsulated in these sacrifices. Okay? It was a little longish explanation, but I think it was necessary. So here we have this, he gave Sarva Veda Samdado. So the idea is one has to give up everything. And this was generally done before one took up monasticism. So you have the sacrifice, you give away everything, and then leave. The first 17 or 18 years is spent studying. You go to the teacher's house when you are 4 or 5, and you study for the next maybe 20 years. And after you've studied, you go and get married. For 12 years, 12 or 14 years, you get married. And after you've married and all that, your children, if you have, go to the house of the teacher. And what do? Now you go to the forest. You go to the forest and practice austerities. And as you keep on practicing austerity, you don't need to be have the burden of this house and this and property and all these things. So you finish up all these things and leave. That was a vanaprastha. So there was the first stage of life is the student life, brahmacharya. And the second is the householder, the grihastha. The third one was the vanaprastha, that is those who were the forest dwellers. And then after 12 years of staying down in the forest, if you want to continue, but if you don't want to continue in that stage, you take up the actual vows of monasticism and they depart. The women also used to take monasticism. So the men used to go this side and women used to go and everything is happy. All the problems in life is because all the oldies are you can say obstructing the youngies. They are saying we cannot understand. There's a generation gap. So he's saying the old rishis say that's the best way. Rama's father, he's seen a few hair turn grey. He's saying, It's time for me to depart. Rama is now young enough to take up the responsibility of the king. Let's go. The goal was always kept as moksha, freedom. You go quickly there. You don't need to be burdened, and you don't burden your children and this and that and all. God, half of our problems are because of this. So what the rishis did, we took the half of the problem and sent them to the forest to go and practice austerities. And it was like, it's a kind of a purification that one goes through before taking up the final, you can say, vows of monasticism. Then Swami Vivekananda says, then what happened? It became divided into two. There were those who, after the student age, straight away went to monasticism. That was also allowed. And there were one who gradually graduated towards this. So these sacrifices were like a kind of a preparatory, you can say. You give away everything that you have and leave. Now this boy, he was supposed to have been in the teacher's house, Gurukula. How come he was still there? Probably his father was performing a sacrifice. He was saying, let's go and let's have a look at this. The idea is, even I belong to you. I'm your son. Whom are you going to give me to? Why is it? Because the child, he saw that my father is not sincere. He is giving away old cows and those which cannot be milked anymore, and they are all tottering, almost dead. So all the useless things the father is giving, and the son saying, that's not right. He just wants the fame of performing the sacrifice. And probably, since he is not doing it properly, that a future experience of that results will probably not come. So he tried to put in that kind of rectification. Yes, now, at least I'll try to open my father's eyes and what exactly is. This Brahma Vidya, that knowledge of Brahman, Yama, as I say, it's a story, it's put in a kind of a story form. And Shankaracharya says it is an akhyayika, that is a well-known story that has been handed down for generations. This is, in fact, Max Muller says that this is one of the Upanishads that lead you gradually from the basics to the highest. And we see a kind of a structure in this. And in fact, this was an Upanishad that he was extremely pleased with. The other Upanishads do not have a kind of a structure. And that's why the commentary of Shankaracharya has become very important to understand the Upanishad. This Upanishad you will find you don't need too much of, you can say, comments also by Shankaracharya. The language is simple, and the meaning also comes straight to you. So once upon a time, Ushanha, the son of Vajasravada, being desirous of fruit, as I say, being desirous of acquiring heavenly results after performing the sacrifice, so he gave away everything. He gave away everything, that is, all his possessions. He had, as the story goes, a son named Nachiketa. So that's that. So this is. Now what's the meaning of Nachiketa? There are various meanings, but it's just a proper noun, and let me keep it as a proper noun. So this Vishwajit Yagnya, that Vishwajit fire, like sacrifice, one of the results of the sacrifice is heaven. That's the temporal can say stage where the fruits of this sacrifice can be enjoyed, and then you come down. Like you're asking about this karma kanda, the previous portion and the latter portion. The karma kandis, that is those who profess the philosophy of karma, they are very clear. You don't need to go to the Upanishads. What's your problem? You perform a sacrifice, go to heaven, and when you come down again perform a sacrifice, again you go down to. Why should you shout and say this is useless? No. In fact, it's things become interesting. So even if it is temporary, doesn't matter. You come down here, you perform a sacrifice, you go up there, after some years, you come down here. Yejam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. That's a huge, you can say, realm. Kshine punya, when your merit becomes exhausted or attenuated, marthalokam, you come down here. This is clear. Whether this realm exists or no, there are in the scriptures. But let me tell you what Swami Subodhananda experienced. Swami Subodhananda was Sri Ramakrishna's disciple and one of the youngest, and he used to be called Khoka, child. He was extremely simple and he loved the mythological literature. One day as he was reading, he was wondering, are all these things real? All these realms that they speak about? And suddenly he finds himself in a realm which is full of light. It's saying bright white light. And the gods and the celestials, as they say, these are celestials that are laughing, kind of a giggly language. And he half understands it, kind of something like a Sanskrit. He's not very sure. He's asking, how did you arrive here? You're a human being. And he's saying, I have come here by the grace of one Sri Ramakrishna, by whose grace you have become gods. And they laughed and giggled and they went away. And then Sri Ramakrishna comes, he takes him by the hand and gives him a big circuit of it, kind of a guided tour. After he gives a guided tour, he's saying, now go back. No, I'm not going to go back. I like it here. No, please, no. There's work to do. So what he did is, he caught him by the head and pushed him. And he finds himself back on earth here. Oh, Master, why did you send me down here? I was good there. Now, I leave you to interpret it the way you want. It's an experience, and we cannot doubt it because he has spoken it in his own words. So these are not people who will speak like, tell lies. So there are these realms. And not only that, like there is a realm for musicians, there is a realm for artists, and there is a realm for various other things. But all these realms will be, as I said, temporary. Like Karma Kandi is saying, it's interesting. You go and come, go and come, go and come. Yes, the Vedantin will say, for how long? And then one day you'll get disgusted with it, fed up with this. What is this going and coming? Is there an answer beyond this going and coming? And then comes the real inquiry, the Upanishads. This is what it is. Because we have seen the soul has got this majesty. It will never, never, never be satisfied with straw. or with the baubles, the small things in life. It will see through this delusion. We know exactly what binds us. Nobody needs to tell us. We know exactly. We know exactly what we have to do. Nobody needs to tell us that you do this. Somewhere we are caught down by our own self. Thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. This knowledge will slowly free us, will break our, you can say, crystallized, you can say, conceptions of ourselves. The moment this transformation takes place, the world becomes transformed. It all starts from here. It gives us a courage to face our own hidden selves. And we will face it because we know that we are immortal. The soul is immortal. The soul is eternal. The soul is infinite. There's no fear for me. As the soul keeps on growing stronger and stronger, these visions of eternal life appear before us and makes us stronger and stronger. So this is how this Upanishad will lead us gradually till the very, very end of what is called liberation. I'm not going to guarantee you that by the time we finish, we will be free. But the process has started. In fact, the process has long time back has commenced. The day you all have come to Sri Ramakrishna, there is no doubt. The day you all have heard about the Atman, the process has begun. And it just needs a little pushing. This Upanishad will give that. We will be thrilled when we see how this young boy, with such courage, that yes, Yama says, I'll make you the king of this whole world. I'll give you celestial enjoyments. I say, no, I don't want this. These are all temporary. I am going to stick to truth. I want to know what is that. And you, the competent, we had the idea of a competent student. Nachiketa turns it around saying, I know you are a competent teacher. There is no better teacher than you. You are going to teach me. And that's what happens. That when we come down to this Upanishad, there is no better competent teacher than this very thing. The real teacher, you must understand, is in your own soul. Sri Ramakrishna will say, the pure mind is the Guru. Your mind will lead you gradually to the higher realms. And as we know, as I mentioned, that we need an external teacher who will give a kind of a slow, a kind of a push. Because like Swami Shivananda was approached by a monk, he said, I have completed everything. Sure? Yeah. There's no doubt? Absolutely no doubt. Are you sure? Then he kept on, oh yes, I got a slight doubt. Then it's not the knowledge of Brahman. It's not the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, there is no doubt in your mind anymore. Vidyate hridaya granthi chidyate sarva samshaya. You know, like Shankaracharya says in the front, like Karatala, you have like a fruit in the palm of your hand. Knowledge will be like that, direct. There will be no doubt. There will be no medium through which you will know it. You will know this thing. And that knowledge is your own soul. This Upanishad is your own soul. So we are doing kind of a soul searching. Yeah. We are saying, no? We are searching for our soulmates. There is no soulmates. The bodies have mates, but souls don't have mates. So we are soul searching. Yes, this is how we search our souls. And when we search, we will find higher and higher dimensions in the soul. And these verses will lead us gradually towards those realms. Finally, the whole soul is unfurled. And what do we discover? We have been the universal being all through. Our soul is universal. That's the greatest paradox. If you are the universal person, yet you keep on thinking as an individual, that is the work of Maya. It has made the infinite finite. It has made the impossible possible and the possible impossible. We need to just get hold of that particular kind of link where we can break it. And once we break it, there's no finite, you can say, entity for you. You have become the infinite. That's the greatest thing. Like right now, you are like the ocean in a drop. Yeah. In Sanskrit and in Hindi, they used to have something called Bindu me Sindhu. That is, there's an ocean in a drop. Right now, we need to look at ourselves as that and slowly unfurl our real nature. And this Upanishad, as I said, it is not external. This is the very song of our soul. These are the words of our own being. And for thousands of years, we have been seekers of that. Humans are seekers. And we've been seeking and seeking. Finally, we've come to such a stage where we are now competent to take that final leap in knowledge. And this is the knowledge. From the secular knowledge, we go to the spiritual knowledge. That knowledge is in a way part of us. For instance, when I see a cow, a black cow, if I've never seen a cow before, I said, yes, somebody tells me this is a black cow. Okay, black colored cow. Okay. When I see a white cow, I'm not confused. With the knowledge of the cow, I get the universal knowledge of cowness. I know all the cows in the universe. So a cow might be black or brown or red or green or blue, whatever. I know the essential cowness. And I think, yeah, because you study one grain of sand, you can know the universe. This is the greatest thing. Both the universal knowledge and the particular knowledge are embedded in each other. That's an amazing. That's an yata amrit somya ekena amrit pinda. You study one lump of clay, oh Sweta Ketu, you'll know the nature of all the clay in the universe. We know. How do we know there's a helium in the sun? How do we know? We've seen the spectrum. Yeah. Yes, we know it here. So all this whole universal knowledge and individual particular knowledge is already existing there in our minds and in our souls. We already, in a way, know that we are that Atman, not subject to death. There has to be that intuitive knowledge, obscured a little. Yes. Otherwise, human life would have become miserable. Nobody would like to live like this kind of. So somewhere deep down, we know we are that universal being. Because we have that knowledge, universal knowledge. You study one grain of sand, you can know the nature of the universe. That's why sand? Take a dewdrop or a kind of a piece of, you can say, rock or anything. The whole universe is attached to that piece of clay or that grain of sand, or a drop of water or a molecule of air, anything. That is the secret of this universe, that the God of death will teach us. I remember, I just on a light note, when we were in training center, when I was in training center, I was we had a teacher, we had a principal, and he was very hard on us. As students didn't like to study so hard and so much. And he kept on insisting, you study this, study that, and study this. And we had named him Yama, the god of death. And he's saying, who's coming, Yama? You better study. He's going to ask questions. And it was great fun, of course, after all these years. See, somehow he was pushing us into it. Later on we found, my God, knowledge gives us tremendous happiness. The only happiness in the world is through knowledge. And then, here we are. We keep on. Because knowledge is consciousness and consciousness is bliss. And bliss is existence. So that Sat and Chit and Anand, they are linked. And as we delve deeper and deeper into this, we understood now. We never needed any prodding. We were just going inside. It's a great, you can say, soul searching. We're searching the soul and discovering layers and layers and layers of being. It's a journey that we need to undertake. Everyone will undertake it today or tomorrow or day after. We have to undertake. Your very nature will rebel against this kind of bondage. Enough of this. I've been having hamburgers for the last 20 years. Am I not sick? Part of you will say, yes, I'm sick. Part of you will say, no, I'm not sick. I'm fine with hamburgers. Oh. And that part will lead you towards higher and higher attainment. We just need to acknowledge first that the soul is immortal, eternal, and all-pervading. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.